Hello everyone! In this video we'll discover how did life change after the fall of communism in Poland. To answer this question we will walk through an important piece of history of the country. At first we will discover what life was like in Poland at the time when communism held power. Then we will understand how and why communism ended, and finally we will compare the differences between before and after communism. To help us better understand what the changes were and how the population experienced them, a person who lived in that country during that period will give us his point of view. In 1939, World War II began and Poland was conquered by Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. The government of the Polish Republic went into exile, and in 1942, Polish communists, backed by the Soviet Union in German-occupied Poland, established a new Polish Communist Party, the Polish Workers' Party. In the Soviet Union, Stalin created the Union of Polish Patriots as a communist organization under Soviet control. As Germany was being defeated, the Polish communist minority cooperated with the Soviet Union, in opposition to the Polish government in exile, to establish a Polish socialist state subordinate to the Soviet Union. This situation led to the creation of the Polish United Workers' Party, which ruled Poland until 1989. Now that we know how communism arrived in Poland, I would like to introduce you our guest Anna Kasprowicz, who was born in Poland in 1974 and lived in that country during the fall of communism. She now is in Italy, but she remembers of her childhood in Poland, and she will give us her interior point of view, which will be interesting to analyze in the continuation of the video.
Hi, Edo, and thank you for inviting me. So, as a kid, I hardly realized that I was growing in a communist country. But I remember one thing in particular. It was winter in December. I was 7 years old and I was skating in front of my block. When I got back home, I saw my mom very worried. She was in front of TV and she was trying to choose a channel, but no one was available. She said that the government imposed the martial law, and I was small, so my understanding was like it was war, a kind of war, and I was very scared. So we were very full of hope and very excited. I remember there was going to be negotiation of a roundtable negotiation between the Communist Party and the government. And in that moment, my father was really so excited. He said that to remember that moment because we were witnessing a historical moment. So we were full of hope, and we were looking forward to live in a free country. So first thing I remember, I was in the secondary school, streets of Warsaw that were empty before and that were getting filled with little sellers of various goods because the economical market got opened at the time.
Among all the countries of the Soviet Union, at the end of the 60s, Poland was the one in which there was more freedom. On the streets of Warsaw, girls went around in miniskirts, and the radio continuously broadcast pieces of the Beatles, something very strange and different compared to the neighboring countries. The Polish population was living a period of apparent tranquility. After the fury of World War II, the pact with the regime was clear. People do not deal with politics, power is in the hands of the party, and there is no collectivization of agricultural land. There was a climate of relative freedom. But then problems started to arrive because this freedom lasted until no one criticized the government. In 1968, a big student revolt created chaos among the country, and most importantly, strikes all over Poland in 1976 and 1980 due to an economical crisis. This situation gave rise to the beginning of opposition by the workers, and in September 1980, the first independent trade union was formed, the Solidarity, which became the largest Polish opposition to communism. The ideas of the movement quickly spread throughout Poland, and the program of Solidarity was universally considered as the first step towards the dismantling of communists. On 13 December 1981, knowing that the country was about to have an economic and civil collapse, the government began a crackdown on solidarity, declaring martial law in Poland, suspending the trade union and temporarily imprisoning most of its leaders, until 1982, when solidarity was officially banned from the country. Martial law was formally repealed in July 1983, although police controls affecting civil liberties and political life, as well as food rationing, remained in place until the second half of the 1980s. During the chaotic years of solidarity and the imposition of martial law, Poland entered a decade of economic crisis. Rationing and queues in shops became one of the typical lifestyles in Poland in the 1980s. Access to Western luxury goods became even more limited as Western governments applied economic sanctions in order to express their dissatisfaction with government repression against the opposition. The feeling of fear, as our guest said, was always present in the minds of the population. The uprisings intensified and the solidarity became more and more powerful, leading to the decision of the communist government to start negotiation. Between 6 February and 5 April 1989, roundtable discussions were held in Warsaw between the ruling communists and the Solidarity opposition movement. They will set the stage for a transition to democracy and later that year, the unraveling of the communist bloc. In April 1989, Solidarity was again legalized and admitted to election. In August 1989, Solidarity, after winning the elections, appointed the Prime Minister, Tadeusz Mazowiecki. The first non-communist Eastern Bloc government took office in September 1989 and immediately adopted radical economic reforms that transformed Poland within a year from a socialist state to a market economy. As Mrs. Kasprowicz said, the streets of Warsaw were full of shops that also contained goods from the western part of the world. Other little changes were applied, such as the destruction of the communist monuments and the changing of the names of the streets. All these changes, also if small, had a very big impact in the moral of the population, who finally felt free. In 1990, Jaruzelski, former Secretary General of the Communist Party, resigned as President of the Republic. His successor was Lech Walesa, who became the first democratically elected President of Poland since 1920s and the first ever Polish president elected by popular vote. In 1991, the Warsaw Pact was dissolved, and the Soviet troops left the Polish territory in 1993. The 1990 elections ended the transition between the communist and liberal regimes. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, arrived to the end of our video. Together we have come a very big and important piece of history of Poland, which gave us the opportunity to understand how complicated it is to live in a communist country and how difficult it is to change. Thanks to our guests, we also understood how the population lived this period of transition, which led to the Poland we know today, democratic and free.